when I first saw a network marketing presentation, I sent it to my mom because she's always been a hustler. So I was like, if it's a scam or something, she'll know, right? So I sent it to her and she watched the video and she hit me back and she was like, if you market yourself, it can work, right? So it was from that faith that actually made me go all in on it. Part of that helped me go all in on it, and that really snowballed into it. And she's also my first entrepreneurial mentor. She never really taught me business. I just saw her do business though.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast, the show where we provide hope and stories that will inspire, stories that will share with you how people have overcome some of the most challenging things in their world and then what they've gone on to do in the world and offer the world in terms of value. And today we have a special guest, a fellow brother of mine from Atlanta. We have Dr. Marquel Russell is going to be on the show. He's the CEO of the Strategic Scale Institute. And we've had a great time getting to know each other so far. So get ready for an insightful conversation. We're going to talk about challenges. We're going to talk about the things he's bringing to the world right now. And I'm going to invite you to check us out on YouTube and to go and follow Dr. Russell on LinkedIn. And I'm sure later on he'll share some more places. But Marquel, should I call you Dr. Russell or can I call you Marquel? I mean, how should I address you?
Marquel is fine.
Marquel, all right. Well, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you today?
I'm excited to be here, Matt. Thank you so much for having me.
Woo, I love that. I love to hear excited to be here today. Why? Why are you excited to be here today? Of all places you could be, why are you here and why are you excited to be here?
So I'm gonna butcher this, but John Maxwell has this quote where he says, I'm gonna totally butcher it, but I think he says something along the lines of, I want to do big things with people that are doing big things so we can do big things together. Or something along those lines, right?
Yeah.
So I like doing big things with people who are doing big things so we can do big things together. And you, my friend, are doing big things. So I'm excited to be here.
Oh, well, hell yeah. It's the best answer in the history of the universe. Let's keep going. And in fact, I remember I was talking yesterday to a friend about something similar. We were talking about Simon Sinek and the idea of the infinite game. And the infinite game is, it's played by long-term leaders who play the long-term game with other long-term leaders, and that's the infinite game. So whether it's a big game or an infinite game, I'm excited to be here with you today, and we're going to dive into the deep end to kick things off. So listeners, put your snorkel on. We're going to go deep, and the first question I have for Marquel, and I ask every guest, is this: Marquel, what's the most challenging thing that you can share with us that you've ever had to endure or overcome?
The most challenging thing I've ever had to overcome is death. And what I mean by that, death of two people, and it's interesting, I was just talking to my therapist about this. It was two over the past. So a lot of times people compare and they say things, well, I want to be like you, or I want this, or I want that. And I'm like, well, are you willing to endure all the loss that I've had to endure over my business journey, right? Because you can't get that without the other things. So I think about 10 years ago now, my mom passed. And then, so that was really tough. And then, in many ways, I actually still deal with that. So it's not like she passed and I was over it. And then about 5 years ago, I think my brother actually passed. So if I had to choose, those would hands down be the most challenging things for sure.
I relate, my friend. It was 19 years ago when I was 28, my dad passed. And that was definitely, as an eternal optimist, it pains me to say that was the worst day of my life. There's no sugarcoating that. That was by far the worst day. It's still, the trauma of that day is still with me.
Yeah.
And to hear you share that you lost your mom and your brother. I mean, now that that's 5 and 10 years ago, I mean, how do you feel today?
Overall, grateful. Grateful for the opportunity that we did have together. These are two individuals who I can genuinely say were huge fans of me, right? And also ushered me in a lot of what I'm doing now. Even when I got started, how I got introduced to this whole world was through network marketing. And when I first saw a network marketing presentation, I sent it to my mom because she's always been a hustler. So I was like, if it's a scam or something, she'll know, right? So I sent it to her and she watched the video and she hit me back and she was like, if you market yourself, it can work, right? So
Yeah.
it was from that faith that actually made me go all in on it. Part of that helped me go all in on it, and that really snowballed into. And she's also my first entrepreneurial mentor. She never really taught me business. I just saw her do business though, right? So,
Okay.
so like a lot of my family called me the male version of her,
Nice.
like how she used to move and shake. And then my brother, he, even though our lives kind of went in different paths, like when I left from the life that I was living prior to all of this, he kind of stayed in that world, which was fine, but still my brother. But even then, he used to call and check on me. Hey, man, what part of the world you in now? And I'm proud of you, man. You the only one that made it out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
Yeah.
overall, grateful, man.
I love your answer. I love that your first response, it's like instinctual now. It's like on autopilot. It's like gratitude. And I
Yeah.
live the same way in my own lens. So I'm super glad to hear you say that. And
Yeah.
I'm curious about a couple things. I mean, first, you said the word therapist, and I just say to all of our listeners, that used to be like a stigmatized word back in
Yeah.
the day, especially for, strong men, because
Yeah.
you weren't considered in the day strong if you even talked about words like that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, now, why not go down that journey and learn about yourself, overcome your stuff, overcome trauma, or whatever it might be. So I'm glad you shared that first. So kudos, my friend, and respect for that.
Thank you.
If you take us back to, we'll stay with your mom for a second. It was 10 years ago. You lost this very, very important human that you loved dearly in your life. What was that like on that day? And then if you fast forward for the next few months in that period in your life, how are you feeling, and just what was going on inside?
So it's very interesting, man. I literally remember it vividly, like from the phone call, from seeing her at the hospital, the doctors. Like I remember it very vividly, the whole experience because I'm the oldest. It's me and I have two sisters. I have two younger sisters as well, so I'm the oldest. So I had to be over funeral proceedings,
Oh,
right? Yeah, I'm
man.
grateful for my amazing wife. She like helped navigate it all, but it was a lot, man. It was like, because family or relatives, because I think it's a difference in family and relatives, right? We don't get to choose our relatives, but we get to choose our family. But it's like things get very interesting around those times. I had never experienced it, but like, people with their expectations and, what they think they should get and all these different type of things. So I had to do that. I had to go to the funeral meetings and all that different type of stuff, right? So it was
Yeah.
interesting. One thing for me though, and that's why I'm a huge proponent of therapy, and I advise all my clients to get therapists as well. I always tell all my clients, business leaders, is that all business leaders should have, well, deserve to have. I don't like to do shoulds, but they deserve to have a coach and a therapist, right? Because I wasn't taught growing up how to process my emotions, right? I actually told myself for years that I was good at controlling my emotions, right? But in reality, I was just good at suppressing my emotions, which creates a numbness over time, right?
Yeah.
So because when I was growing up, and you alluded to it earlier, Matt, and you was like, I was taught like men don't cry, be a big boy,
Yeah.
you don't show your emotions, man up, all those different type of things. So it's like you don't really all this. So now you have all this emotion and everything bottled up inside. And then you become this 20, 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old. If you never taught how to process, because you
Yeah.
can't control emotions. Emotions are going to happen anyway. You can only control your response to it. But it
Yep.
was through therapy that I actually learned that. So through my mom's process, I actually didn't really know how to process it all because I was trying to control it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're sharing this, because this is resonating with our listeners so well. This and Marquel is right. You're totally right. That for me, I didn't learn how to process that when my dad was alive. didn't know how to do that. And it wasn't until my late 30s that I really started to hire my first coaches for emotional intelligence. So I like what you said there. And I really love what you said when you said you're not a should guy. You don't use the word should.
Yeah.
That was part of my coaching or therapy, was to learn to let go of that perfectionism, that should, and that self-judgment of should.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. What is your, let's stay here for a second. What is your relationship with the word should, whether it's your own internal expectation or other expectations from others? Like what should mean to you?
I think it's both of those, right? So who am I to tell somebody what they should do? Right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
first and
exactly.
foremost. All I can do is say, here's what I found that has served me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just offer this to you. Because I think also people have resistance around when you're trying to force something on them, they're going to automatically resist it. But if I just come from a place of, hey, I just want to offer you this, or are you open to me sharing something that's worked for me? Even with my kids, right? Again, I learned parenting from trauma, right? Growing up, how I was parented,
Yeah.
right? And then with my older kids, I brought a lot of that into my older kids. But now with my younger, and I began to evolve and learn more on the back end of it. But with my younger kids, I attempt to take a different approach, right? And it's more questioning versus do this, do that, do this, do that, do this, do that, because that's automatically going to create this, and even with coaching clients, it's like the best coaches aren't people who suggest or say a lot of things. The best coaches are the people who ask a lot of questions, right?
I
So,
totally agree.
Instead of me shooting all over you, it's just, yeah.
I love it. I've used that line in so many keynote speeches. You're probably shooting all over yourselves all the time. I love it, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think that's, and again, that perfection, or and also as I'm over the past year or so, I told somebody the other day, my word for this year has been surrender, right? So I'm learning the surrendering and the letting go, and a lot of that comes with letting go of expectations and what we think should be and so forth, and just kind of getting into the flow and release.
I wonder, since the word of the year is surrender, I wonder if you're on the Michael Singer surrender experiment, if you're into that book and taking that course yet, because that's freaking phenomenal.
So I didn't know it was a course. So here's how everything. I was telling somebody the other day that God is just so intentional, and because I literally just finished. I got goosebumps now talking about this, right? I literally just finished the surrender experiment, like literally. And now I'm listening to his second book, The Untethered Soul.
Ooh,
I literally was just listening to it when I was on the way back from dropping my son off at school. It's so powerful. And I've started on Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins.
Anyone listening out there, their success leaves clues. Tony Robbins says that, and this is one of the clues. When I first heard of Michael Singer and the Untethered Soul, it was just another book, kind of like Eckhart Tolle, something very spiritual, esoteric. It can be intellectual, but it really deals with matters of the heart too. I mean, there's so much into it. And then I read Michael Singer, and it was just a game changer for us to learn to let go of our perfectionism, and it was huge. So I'm so glad. In fact, my wife put me onto the surrender experiment. She listened to it. She let go of some of her stuff, and we did the workbook together on a long drive down to Georgia, because my mom still lives in Georgia. So it's good, man. I'm so glad you mentioned that.
I didn't even know there was a workbook. I'm gonna grab that. I didn't even know there was a workbook.
Yeah, you get it on Audible too. I mean, the Audible book and then the Audible workbook. It's different chapters of exercises, and I did it for my wife, and it's been really, really helpful for us and the stage we're in. So I'm glad that you shared that. I'm glad that you shared some of the challenges. I want to move into some business here in a minute, because I know that you're a successful CEO. You've served clients. Your clients have produced millions, or pardon me, billions of dollars in revenue. So I want to get to that success story and share that. Before we get to that, you made a comment earlier, something along the lines of you made it out.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, can you give us a little context about your background, or I
Yep.
wonder what that meant, made it out.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. So I literally have a ninth grade education. And then I kind of went full throttle in the street. So like when I was growing up, the people who I looked up to the most, who had money in my community, were drug dealers, right?
Yeah.
So I naturally went that route, like my cousins and so forth. So I went that route. So I dropped out in 10th grade. It just stopped making. I didn't drop out because I had a hard time in school. I just lost interest. Like I had, and up until I was interested, I had all A's and B's. But when I got into like 10th grade, I had algebra 2. I knew I wanted a million millionaire. I knew what I wanted. But I just didn't see how algebra 2, and
Yeah.
I didn't see the connection. I'm like, some of this stuff is getting ridiculous. And I was already driving to school. I was making money, smoking weed, all this different type of stuff. So I thought I was grown. So I was like, I'm tired of this stuff. So I started leaving. So I dropped out of high school, long story short. And then
Okay.
one thing leads to another. In that world is some side effects. Like some of the side effects are death, right?
Oh.
Thank God that didn't happen for me. Some of the other side effects are jail, right? Prison. So I actually went to jail a couple times. I had my first son when I was 19.
19.
Yeah,
Man.
he just turned 21. He just turned 21 the other day, actually. So I had my first son when I was 19,
Wow.
and
Okay.
the first time I met him was in visitation. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Man.
So he was a baby. He don't
Was
remember
that
anything.
experience did any connect any dots there? Did anything just show up for you about lifestyle, or I don't know?
Yeah,
You're
for
speaking
sure.
a language I can theoretically understand, but I've not walked in those shoes, so I'm really curious what that's like to meet your son for the first time visitation.
Yeah. So my dad wasn't around when I was growing up. So when I met him, when I was in there and my son was born, because my whole plan was to be out before he was born. Right.
Yeah.
Again, looking back, connecting the dots, there goes my expectations tied to this, right? But I had to surrender. I was in a place where I had to surrender. Like I couldn't just walk out. So I was like, I'm gonna do this job thing. I need to be in my son's life. I tried to do the job thing. That didn't work out. I kind of defaulted to my previous training, going back into the streets. And then all that kind of led into, this world I'm in now. But that's what he meant. So like when I transitioned out of the streets, like that was like my full-time thing. My biggest goal was to be a big drug kingpin, right? Because that's what I saw. The people who I saw as successful was that I didn't see anything other than like NBA players and stuff like that. So you can only see as far as you can see. So at that particular time, that's what I saw, and so that's what he meant by, man, you only the one who made it out.
When you said that, the first thing that just came to my mind was one of my favorite, kind of gangster movies was DMX back in the day, in that movie Belly. Yeah,
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, that was that opening song, that opening scene. Yeah, I'm thinking of that, and so to go from that to having your son born while you're in jail, and then to actually get out and now help other entrepreneurs grow and scale businesses.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's like a 1 in a million chance that even happens.
Nah,
so
really, it really is.
When was the turning point? You went from the person who is of the streets and in the streets to the person who originated there, who is also trying to move to another place. Like, where was the transformational moment, or that time that you can think back to for us?
The thing that changed the game for me was I started doing club promotions as well. So I was taking the money I was making in the streets, and I started a record label. So I was in the club one night. And you've lived in Atlanta before, so the club scene is heavy here. So I was in the club one night, and a guy, he walks up to me and he pitches me on network marketing. Well, he didn't say it was network marketing because I didn't know what that was anyway. But I got invited to a meeting. So I went to that meeting. It was a Wednesday. It was in Riverdale. That's like, for those who are familiar with Atlanta, that's like south of the airport. So I went to the meeting, and they started breaking down this presentation, video phone technology, being in a room imagine being in a room where Google started or Facebook started and so forth and so on. and I joined.
Wow.
And that took me down this rabbit hole, which led me into, I didn't make a ton of money in network marketing. However, the biggest thing I got from it was the personal development. I was introduced to Jim Rohn and
Oof.
John Maxwell and Darren Hardy and Eric Thomas and Dr. Miles Monroe and, all those guys. And I got bit with the bug of the personal development, and that even when I was still, I didn't immediately transition. I was literally still in the streets while doing the network marketing stuff, but I was riding around, and I go from listening to Young Jeezy to listening to Jim Rohn, right?
Actually, I was living in Atlanta. I can feel the same thing because I used to listen to
Yeah,
Lil Jeezy when I lived in Atlanta too,
yeah,
man. Is he the
yeah,
one that has the Ice song?
yeah. Icy, so Icy, yeah,
Oh yeah, I used to listen to that on the way
yeah,
up
yeah, yeah,
on La
yeah,
Vista Road on the way to the famous pub
yeah.
back in the day. That's about
Yeah,
20 years ago.
exactly,
Anyways,
exactly. So yeah, so I think that was the turning
okay,
point. I began to shift. My thinking began to be shift because I was like, I had never heard anybody talking like this. I
yeah,
think that was me being in those network marketing rooms, seeing how people thought and talked and how positive they were, and that changed the game. I was like a fish out of water.
man. That is
Yeah,
so cool to hear you share that story. You got bit with the bug of the personal development. To me, that's eternal optimism. It's being able to hear something, hear an idea. You get inspired by it,
yeah,
and you go with it.
yeah,
You take action on it, and kudos
yeah.
to you, my friend. So
Thank you.
bring us forward. Bring us forward to the birth of your businesses, and how all of this actually got started for you.
Yeah, so the network marketing that then led me. So I actually was about to quit the network marketing thing. Because it didn't happen as fast as I thought I perceived that it was supposed to go. I ended up signing up a couple people. The guy who signed me up actually invited me to a conference that was happening here in Atlanta. So I went to the conference, and if you haven't been to a network marketing conference, it's hype. Everybody's excited. Thousands of people there. It's just a
Yeah,
different vibe.
yeah,
So I'm not sure what happened, but I came out of there and I was excited. So I signed some people up. One of the people I signed up actually a few weeks later actually sent me a link to watch this free video series. And it was a 4-part video series. And basically it talked about how to build a network marketing business without home parties, without home meetings and so forth, using the internet and using direct response marketing, which
wow,
I had never heard of. So I watched this video series. Then he sold a $40 ebook at the end. At this time, I had never bought anything online. I didn't have any cards or anything, right? Because I ran a cash business, right? I didn't
yeah.
have cards, didn't have bank accounts, any of that. I bought a prepaid card to join a network marketing company. I went and loaded some more money on it to buy this ebook. And then when I bought it, it showed me, an upsell. I didn't know it was upsell, but it was like, hey, get this thing too. But I had only loaded enough to buy the book. So I had to go load the card again and buy the upsells. But that led me into learning direct response marketing, attraction marketing, lead generation. And I just started teaching. And one of the concepts that he taught was attraction marketing, basically creating value, which was creating content on the internet, teaching what you was learning. So I started teaching network marketers what I was learning about growing a network marketing business. And that was the
Wow.
earlier phases of building my brand, right? And then people started reaching out, asking me what I was doing and could I teach them. So I started just kind of doing what other people was doing and started creating some courses or whatever, trying to sell those or whatever. Made a couple sales, nothing crazy. And then people wanted me to coach them. So then I learned that coaching was an entire different industry. I'm
Yeah.
like, wow, people will pay you for what you know. I'm like, this is mind blowing. Like, this is, for some people listening to me right now, this is so basic, but to me, this is like mind blowing to me. I was like, wow. So I started teaching what I was learning. And then what blew me away, people was taking what I was teaching them, going to implement it and getting results. And I was like, wow. And I realized that I had a gift for teaching. I could take complicated concepts and break them down so that other people can actually implement it. Right. So I went all in. I discovered that one of the biggest reasons that business go out of business is the lack of knowing how to generate leads consistently.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
so I went all in on teaching businesses how to generate leads. And then fast forward, we started teaching client acquisition. So it's like leads are great, but if you can't convert those leads into clients, then it was for nothing, right? So we went all in on client acquisition, and we started a company called Client Attraction University. And throughout that process, we've helped, probably over 3,000 businesses in terms of their marketing as clients.
Wow.
And we helped our clients do an estimated $1 billion in revenue. That company, Client Attraction University, was on Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies list. And then through that whole process, though, one thing that we had to learn internally is scaling businesses. Right. What
Okay.
about team? Like, because marketing and getting clients and sales is one thing. However, when it comes down to what about now, once you get to 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a month, what about team? What about systems? What about infrastructure? Because as you're generating more revenue, if you're not careful, you will start working more hours. And I never wanted to be somebody who sacrifices the most important things in my life, my family, for money, right? And I didn't want to build a community or a culture of helping other business owners build what looks like success in their business, but not the other family side of things, right? So I zoomed out and I looked and like, okay, what are the pillars that it takes to really build a really successful company that's profitable, sustainable, scalable, enjoyable, and potentially sellable? And that's how we came up with this thing called the Predictable Scale Flywheel, which is 8 pillars.
Okay.
And we started focusing on, okay, how do we help these businesses scale? Because once we help them increase their revenue and their client flow, but if they don't have the infrastructure to deal with this new growth, their business will actually implode. So then we shifted into teaching these businesses how to scale, because a lot of people was teaching about how to make money, how to get clients, but a lot of times people aren't talking about the operational stuff, the financial frameworks, and everything that it takes to actually build a business that's actually truly scalable. So it was like, okay, that's the direction we have to go. So we created Strategic Scale Institute solely around helping businesses scale to 7 figures while actually taking more time off. Because a lot of businesses, they'll scale to 7 figures and beyond, but they find themselves working more. We actually want to show them how to do it. We actually show them how to do it while actually working less, so they can enjoy the family and travel and all the other things they want to do.
I think that's crucial. It's crucial, and for those listening out there, I think that Dr. Russell, I'm gonna give him the doctor title now, because a lot of people can say they're a doctor, but in my mind, he just earned it again. Not that he needed to, but he just earned it again with that last statement. And the statement is to do it and grow it and scale it, but also not have to sacrifice more time. That's one of the things that sometimes you might hear what I would call an amateur coach, talk about all I want to do is scale, scale, scale. Well, on the other side of it, there's also your life. I hear so many people try to pitch this idea of let's grow and grow and grow and grow. And every third word is grow and expand. And there's not any attention paid to the quality of life and the bombshells you leave behind by not being there for your family.
Yeah.
Right. So I love that you have this kind of multifaceted approach. Could you just take a minute or two here and what's an example of one of your pillars and what that might look like? Yeah.
So the first pillar, which I think is the most important, was one of the most important pillars, is what we call inner game mastery, right? Yeah. Inner game mastery. So we believe that to run a fully optimized company, it has to be ran by a fully optimized CEO, right? And a fully because if you aren't a fully optimized CEO, you're gonna burn out, right? There was a study that the Wall Street Journal did, and they said 1,900 CEOs left their jobs last year, and it said 19 died in the office, right? And he said, and it went on to say that it typically came from stress, long hours, bad eating, anxiety, all the things that came with it. And it talks about how business owners, the ones that had a down season in business, they actually lived 2 years less, right? So they were dying earlier because of stress. And a lot of that comes from business owners tying their identity to the success of their business. So for example, if they say, okay, they built their business to $1 million, their identity becomes that of somebody who built the business to $1 million. The tricky part about that, though, if the following year the business has a challenging year, now their identity takes a hit as well. Yeah. And because their identity takes a hit, how they show up as a parent, a father, a mom, a wife, a husband, a ministry leader or whatever, all that can take a hit as well because they've over-indexed in their identity as a business owner or entrepreneur, right? So we got to have a system in place to hedge against that. And so you can be fully optimized. And first of all, make sure your identity is totally separate from that as your business, right? And also make sure your identity is separate from you as a parent and you as a spouse as well. And part of this is we have this thing called a UOS. So it's a U operating system. And
Okay.
it's 7 parts of it. So one of them is, and I'll give you an example, like an actual case study as well. So
Okay.
one of them is having a morning success ritual.
Okay.
So most people, when they wake up in the morning, the first thing they do is they grab their phone and then they start scrolling social media, right? Or they grab their phone or they check email, or they grab their phone and they
Oh, that's a mistake.
or they reply text
I don't mean
messages.
to be judgment. That's a mistake.
Because I used to be that guy, right? So one thing
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
is I always teach from experience, right? So one of the things I do at night, because I tell people your morning success ritual starts the night before. So one thing Jim Rohn used to say is, you never start a day till it's done on paper, right? So your day starts the night before. So one of the things I like to do is I put my phone on airplane mode at night. So now when I wake up in the morning, I don't see any text messages or anything because your brain is going to automatically make you go open those texts. So that's one. So that's one part of it. Morning success ritual. The second part is some type of wind down ritual. Like, how do you transition from work into family life, right? And how do you transition from family life to actually your pre-sleep routine, so you can actually get quality sleep, so you can actually rest? Because it doesn't matter how many hours you sleep if you don't get quality rest. And some of this transitioning from work into life, it can be challenging, especially if you work from home, because especially if your main phone is in the living room or it's in the kitchen, you still are connected to business. So one of the things I had to do was actually go get another phone, right? And be intentional about leaving. I'm not perfect at it, but be intentional about leaving the business phone in the office. So having a wind down ritual. Another thing that I advise all of my clients to do is quarterly getaways, like a quarterly getaway where you're totally unplugged. No business, no nothing, totally unplugged so you can recharge and renew. Right. Another thing that we do, part of this UOS is 7 parts of it. Another thing is what we call a weekly map. So you basically design your week, right? You design your
Yes.
week and you figure out what are the highest leverage things for you to do in the business, and what are
Yep.
all the things that's filling your calendar that you actually shouldn't be doing, right?
Yep.
So
I'm
we
with you.
design that. And then we have a yearly version of that called the War Calendar, where we design the year. And one of the nerdy things that we do as part of that is what we call a fully optimized scorecard. So basically what that does is when I wake up in the morning, I have this spreadsheet. I'm probably going to turn it into an app. But one of the things is we turn it in, I put what was my sleep score? What was my readiness
Yes.
score? And I track that with an Oura ring.
Boom.
And yeah, there you go. And then I have how many hours did I sleep? Did I get up before my designated time that I wanted to get up before? Did I meditate? Did I have a clean diet? Did I read? Did I journal? So that's all quantitative data. And then I do qualitative data, where it's like, how do I feel about life right now on a scale of 1 to 10? How do I feel about health on a scale of 1 to 10? And then how do I feel about work on a scale of 1 to 10?
Whew, I love everything you just said. And for those on YouTube, you can see that we're Aura brothers. Check out the Aura ring.
For sure.
And it's not paid for. We're not paid to advertise for. But man, I love this thing. My wife's got one.
Yeah.
You know, we track that sleep every night. We've been paying attention to the added sugar, and since we started to remove that, my sleep score has gone up anywhere from a few points to like 12 points just by removing the added sugar from the diet. And that's been for the past couple months. So
it's a game changer.
I love everything you just shared there on the U operating system. I think so many people only focus on the morning routine and they fail to focus on the wind down, how you wind down your day. So I'm curious, for someone who practices this, how do you wind down your day, Marquel?
So one thing that I do is so my team does an end of day report. I also do an end of day report as well. So I pull up my end of day report, and then some of the questions I ask, I actually got the one from yesterday pulled up. So one of the things I do is I rate 1 to 10 my
Okay.
productivity, my energy, and my clarity from the day. So
Okay.
1 to 10. Then the second question I asked is, did I accomplish more or less than I anticipated? Then
Good.
I have list activities and notes. So I just drop all the activities that I whatever I got accomplished for the day. Then the next one is, were there any tasks that were more challenging than I had expected? Another one is, did I schedule more than I could reasonably accomplish? What habits and activities improved my day? So was I in a bad mood, but went to the gym and got out of the funk, whatever. Which activities worsened my day, right? So it may be procrastinated, drank too much caffeine if I was a caffeine guy, got it late, didn't get sleep, whatever that may be, right? A moment
Yeah.
I appreciated today, a situation I handled well today. I could have made today better if things I want to solve or require info on for tomorrow. What's the most strategic way to do this without effort? Then I do my 3x3s. So the 3x3s are: write down 3 things I'm grateful for.
Okay.
Next, write down 3 things that I was proud of during the day. And then finally, write down 3 ways that you can improve your performance, happiness, and success tomorrow. And then lastly, I have, where did I win today? And then I rate myself 1 to 10: health, family, business, spiritual, and financial. And what can I do tomorrow to improve these ratings? And then I rate myself 1 to 10 on, did I control my calendar and my activity? Did I do what I say I was going to do and honor my promises to myself? Did I spend time doing my morning success ritual and nail my morning routine? Did I operate at the peak of my abilities and am I satisfied with my performance? Did I protect my biology today? Did I remember to serve people today? Am I on pace to hit my goals for this week? Am I on pace to hit my goals for the month? And then I have yes or no questions. Was I supposed to work out this morning? Did I? Did I journal this morning? Did I read this morning? Did I have my day planned before starting it? And was I 100% honest in my answers above? And then I wrap up with, what is my intention for tomorrow?
Okay.
What are my to-dos? What are my top 3? Where was I uncomfortable yesterday? And then I just do like an overall priority plan and review, brain dump, and then drop any notes. So that's my end of day report. That's not the pre-sleep routine, which we can get into if you want, but that's the end of day report. And then when I learned, I forget where I learned it, but I think it was when I go out my office, I'll close the door and I'll say shut down complete. And that'll trigger to my
Awesome.
brain, done.
Oh, so much rich content here to dive deep into, and we could be here all day on this one thing alone. And I love that you have a structured way to look back and see how you did. And
Yeah.
as a business owner, yes. As a father, husband,
Yeah.
yes. So I love that you have that, and a lot of those things were under energy, productivity, or under business. And then there was the grateful. And what was good today? What can I improve on? So a lot of accountability, ownership. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And then team. I think this is crucial. Those of you listening out there, the way that you transition from business you to parent you, spouse you, just personal you, whatever that might look like. I love that you have one. Shutdown complete.
Yeah.
I love that. I learned something like that from watching Tony Robbins documentary, I think it was about 7 years ago on
Yeah.
Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
How he gets himself kind of into that zone and walks through that portal. He does that, spins a circle, gives a fist bump, or like this, and then he goes on stage. And I have something like that when I finish the work of the day. What I would do is something very similar. I will stand up and I'll do a couple of deep breaths, and then I give myself permission to go forward to the rest of the day.
I love it.
You have a business phone that you leave locked over there. I have a cell phone jail I got for $11 at Amazon years ago. I put my
Nice.
phone in the jail. So I love that there's so many similarities to it, a little bit different lens, but for the same reasons. So we can show up for our clients and for ourselves. For our people.
Yeah.
So,
because one of the things that I learned, a guy told me one time, I forget who it was. I think it might have been my therapist when I growing up, my dad wasn't there at all. Right. But another flip side of that is your parents being there, but not emotionally present. They're physically present, but they're not emotionally present. So for me, I'm very intentional. Again, not perfect at it, but very intentional around me being emotionally present, not just here in the house physically, but being emotionally present, for my kids.
Absolutely.
And if I'm
Wow.
scrolling social, and this ain't judging nobody, because again, I'm recovering, right? But if I'm scrolling social and I'm distracted, I'm on email and all this different type of stuff. My kids are trying to be there with me or talk to me. It creates a thing, and no matter how much money I make, or how many trinkets or gifts I get them, or how many vacations we go on, if I'm not, the thing that they want is my actual presence.
Yeah. I hope that sinks in, listeners. They don't want the money. They want our presence. They want our time, love, and attention, not all the stuff that we might feel that if we earn it, we chase it, that'll get them there. No, it's that time. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
as
you.
entrepreneurs, we'll lie to ourselves and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this for my kids, or I'm
Oh,
doing this for my family," but in real, they don't even want it.
yeah. That makes no difference to them if I'm not there, how much extra stuff we're doing or yeah, if we go and buy that big mansion, that's fantastic. But still, that's just one more barrier if it's a giant house, but I'm never around.
Yep.
So there's true wisdom, and it's wisdom spoken from someone who's lived it. So I'm glad that you're sharing these real life stories, because this is you don't get this level, the dear listener. You don't get to this level by just talking about it. I mean, you've got to live it, you got to do it, and Marquel's done that. And Marquel, where might we find out more about you? Where are the places that we can follow you, connect with you on social media or out there?
Yeah, so I actually put together a really cool site. It's called Scale Made Easy. I'm gonna just make sure I'm giving you the right URL. But yeah, it's Scale Made Easy. So SCALE Made MADE Easy. EASY.com. And I just put together a page with just tons of resources. So regardless of where you are in your business, you can actually leverage some of these resources to tap into. And it's free stuff, right? It's free. And it's not free because it's like, okay, stuff we can just give away free. It's like, it's extremely valuable stuff to really, for you to tap into and start to execute it into your business. So scalemadeeasy.com, that's the place where we got a ton of free resources there for you. And then also, whatever your favorite platform is, whatever your favorite social media platform is, if you're on Instagram, connect with me on Instagram, send me a direct message. Let's connect. I check my messages, like, let's connect. If you're on LinkedIn, let's connect there, Facebook, wherever you hang out, let's connect. And we also have a show called Strategic Scale. The Strategic Scale Show. It's on all your favorite podcast platforms. We also got it on our YouTube channel. If you type in Marquel Russell Strategic Scale. And on there,
Yeah.
I literally sit down with business owners who are making $30,000 to $100,000 per month or more. And we actually do a deep dive into their business. And it's more so like if they paid me $10,000 per hour for consulting and we're sitting down working on their business privately, we're literally working on their business and the cameras are just recording. Right.
Yeah.
So it's really cool. So check that out. So wherever your favorite platform is, let's just connect. And like I said, scalemadeeasy.com. We got a lot of free resources over there for you.
That's awesome. One thing I love about that is that you take the time to do like a real life case study with people on the show, and you talk through and walk through exactly where they were, where they are, where they're going. You go through the deep dive. This isn't just a theory based thing. It's going in deep. So I love that you do that, and that is Strategic Scale Show. Or just go to your YouTube channel, Marquel Russell on YouTube,
Yeah,
Strategic Scale, and you'll find you out there.
100%.
And yeah, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, Marquel. I want to thank you for showing up today.
Thank
And
you.
ding, 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 we made it to the lightning round here in the very end. You said don't tell you the questions, so
Okay,
I'm going to fire them at you here, brother.
let's do it.
So let's start. Since we started in books, let's start with books. And when it comes to books, I'm going to try to hone in on a couple of different things here, try to throw you for a little loop here. So let's start with, you want to recommend a book.
Mhm.
You're going to recommend it to someone who's not really been into this personal growth game yet. It's their first couple of books to get them started, to give them a taste of what's yet to come. What are the first one or two books you'd recommend to get started in this space of personal growth and development?
I'm going to recommend, this is probably my most recommended book. It's The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. The
Yeah.
War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That's number one. And then number two is going to be Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Like a lot of people know about Think and Grow Rich, but many people aren't aware of Outwitting the Devil. Extremely powerful. And I also recommend the audio version of it because it's very fascinating. So those would be the two.
Those are the two to get started with. Okay, great. So let's say that we're into the journey. We've been in the journey for, a few years or a decade and maybe even a couple decades. So we're there, we're deep in it.
Yeah.
And now we're at a place where we're going to study the next level up. In your opinion, what might be that next peel the layer back and next one or two books that you'd recommend?
Personal development books?
Yes, sir.
So personal development books, I would say, man, there's so many. I would say, I had to go what we were talking about earlier. I would say The Surrender Experiment.
Yeah.
The Surrender Experiment and The Untethered Soul.
Yes.
Those are the two that come to mind. And I know that it's my recency bias as well, because those are the ones I'm into right now. Yeah. But you definitely can't go wrong with those two.
Super powerful experiences waiting for you there, dear listener. Okay, well, it's you're from the ATL. And anyone who's from this part of the country knows that's where great music comes from. I'm curious, when it comes to music, is there any particular artist or genre or songs, anything that lights you up on fire, that just inspires you?
Yeah, I love music, man. It really depends. So I think my favorite duo of all time is Outkast.
Yes, you got to say Outkast if you're from Atlanta. You got to say, well, that's up there, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah, Outkast. An album that never gets old is Nipsey Hussle Victory Lap. I was listening to some of it yesterday. Just gone way too soon.
Yeah.
Sure. My favorite of all time, my favorite rapper of all time, though, is Tupac.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
Another person that's gone way, way too soon.
Yeah.
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 He made massive impact on the music industry. I think he was only like 26, I think, when he was killed.
Well, I remember the first time watching him in that movie Juice back in the day when I was in high school. That was the first time I ever saw him. What was his name? Bishop, yeah. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, we've given music. We've given books. I'll give you the last word, and I'm going to ask you the last question. So, Dr. Russell, you're on the Eternal Optimist podcast. What might Eternal Optimist mean to you?
It's a great question. Eternal Optimist means to me, the first thing that dropped to my spirit is a scripture. And the scripture says, and I'm going to butcher this, but I'm going to do my best, is, without me going to Google, is I know, I'm going to give it to you because I want to get this right. Hold on. I'm going to give it to you. Boom. All right, here it is. So it's a scripture. So the scripture is Jeremiah 29:11. And it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future." Right? And that's a promise from God. So God can't lie. So if you hold on to that promise, no matter what happens, no matter what you encounter, that'll keep you being that eternal optimist, because you already know you win regardless of what you have, regardless of what you're going through right now or have gone through. Like, you win. And it's not that you win eventually, but it's like you win right now.